nothing, man. Hey, I am so fired up because why? Man, we still can play defense in this league, and that's why I'm fired up about it.
You like the defense.
I do, man. How do you not like the way Philly played? And everybody's like, well, yeah, they're playing against, no quarterback or whatever. Why? Because they knocked out the other two quarterbacks. So to me, it's like, are we going to give Philly any credit at all for, they're down to, let's see, Christian McCaffrey at quarterback?
It's not like they don't have a good blindside protector there in Trent Williams, right?
Yeah.
They're just Reddick and these guys.
No, yeah, that's the thing, though, Rex. You hit it right there. They knocked out both quarterbacks. So if you put in a third quarterback, they'd have knocked him out too.
But wait, Rex, what happened to how good the 49ers defense was supposed to be? What happened?
Well, that defense, I mean, look, I think their defense played pretty good in that game. And here's the funny thing. They give up 30 points. When you look at it, it's like complete blowout in this game. But it was driven by their defense. Those 30 points were driven by it as well. But, obviously they were able to run the ball effectively against that Niner defense. But Jalen Hurts, to me, he played awful in this game. And they still put up 30 points. So it's amazing. But I think this defense, there's going to be some people are going to say, is this a historic defense?
Who? Is this an historic team, Rex?
No,
because you mentioned Hurts played horrible by his standards because he's hurt, obviously, right? But with him in the game, they have one loss all year.
Yeah.
And to me, from the beginning of the preseason, when you saw what they did in the offseason, you go, that's the most complete team in the NFL. And if anything, they've outkicked their coverage here, right? So is this going to go down if they win in the Super Bowl by a couple scores as one of the greatest teams of all time?
No. I still don't. But I'm with you because here's what I look at. If you're just looking at the numbers, you've got this is the number one ranked offense in the league, right? Well, they're number 2 in defense. Like, how many teams have actually numbers-wise been better? Now, look. I only say this about like a historic defense because I've coached on historic defenses, all right? And I know this defense is being compared to the 84, 85 Bears by numbers, right? Look at those sacks right there. Well, those defenses were historic. So are we going to – and I know they played an extra game or whatever. The Eagles will play an extra game. But they're a historic pass rush unit. There's no way you can you can't argue that fact. Because they are getting to that passer. Like those 80-some Bears right there, that game, I was on the sideline literally, watching this game, and I'm thinking, dang, is my dad coaching? It's like they're knocking quarterbacks out. They're doing whatever, and they're physical. They can man you up on the outside. They've done a great job. Look, they get James Bradbury, Slay. Those are great free agent pickups they've had. Maddox in the slot. That guy with the 3 different names playing safety for him. Dude, this team is loaded.
No, they
are loaded.
They're loaded. But when you start talking about historic defenses, I think about your dad teams at the Bears, and I was a young pup, but obviously I've learned to understand the game, and it takes me back to see those teams on defensive side of the ball. I think about your teams in Baltimore. Those are historic defenses. I think about my Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think about Pittsburgh defenses. Those are historic defenses. This one, in this day and age, is a really good defense. It just is. When you talk about historic defenses, you look at the point differential. You look at who's scoring points. Is the game 6-9? Is it 12-3? To me, that's real defense.
But more scores, they score more nowadays. I look at the ranking in the league.
But if I run up on them teams with these high flying offenses, and I'm an offensive player,
right?
Them defenses will knock these dudes around, man.
But when you are second in the league in defense and first in offense, the reason I say is that an historically great team, if they win the Super Bowl by a couple scores, is when Jalen Hurts has been in, they've been virtually unbeatable, and they're beating the hell out of teams. When he's healthy, or at least when he's in the game, beating the hell out of teams.
No, exactly, and I just threw it out there to stir it up a little bit about that because look, I don't think they're on a historic team. When I go back and look at the Ravens, we gave up, if you include playoffs, under 10 points a game.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking
points
about.
A game. So, but I heard the narrative. I'm like, they're a historic pass rush team, though.
Yes,
and that to me going forward, are they going to actually hit this quarterback that's on one leg? Like, to me, that was was that not the most disappointing thing this whole week? Was that Cincinnati? I'm like, oh, they're going to go after Patrick Mahomes.
But Cincy, that's what Cincy needs, though, Rex. Is they need a serious edge rusher. They don't really have a serious edge rusher at the level that we're talking about when we talk about championship football for Cincinnati. And that was the reason that they couldn't get to Patrick Mahomes and get him on the ground at the level that they needed to. The sack that they fell into, that was a fall-in sack because he was trying to move around and slide through, and they gave a minus 1 yard sack.
Yeah.
But off that, Rex, what do you think? What do you think about the officiating, though, Rex? Because a lot of people are going to obviously focus on Patrick Mahomes and that last play that got them into field goal range. But literally a couple of plays before that, it looked like there was, roughing the passer on Joe Burrow that wasn't called.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think the officiating overall was disappointing in both games, quite honestly. I will say this: everybody's going to focus on they got the, in the Chiefs game, they got the last one right. There's no question about it. The guy hits him out of bounds, and they got that play right. But if I'm Zach Taylor and I'm on the sideline, I'm sitting back going, dude, how many 3rd and 8s do I have to stop? And it just seemed like over and over again, the intentional grounding call, the hitting back on the punt returns, I'm literally taking it so personal, like, is there a bias against me, against my football team? I've been on the sideline and felt like that. Now, look, it's not. The NFL does a phenomenal job of that. There's not that bias. But I'm telling you right now, he's feeling like there was because I've been there.
Rex, Patrick Mahomes, through 5 years as a starter, is now going to his has hosted 5 AFC championship games.
Right.
Only a pre-snap penalty against Tom Brady stopped him from going to his 4th Super Bowl, but he's going to his 3rd Super Bowl. He's got an MVP. He's about to win another one. He's got a Super Bowl MVP. He's put up all the numbers along the way. The eyeball test says we've never seen this before. Whenever you compare an athlete to Michael Jordan, slow down. But in football at quarterback, this is the closest we've seen. I'm claiming this is the greatest first 5 seasons in the history of the quarterback position. What do you say to that?
No, I mean you can't argue with it. Like, to me, this is the most talented quarterback I've ever seen. The most talented. Like, I don't know how the hell you can argue that it isn't. Look, I'm a huge Josh Allen guy because I love the way he runs and the competitor. But if you're sitting back saying, from a talent standpoint, arm talent, mobility, brains, all this type of stuff, leadership, dude's got everything. He's got everything. So to me, and I've been around, I've seen them all. This is the most talented guy I've ever seen.
Yeah, wow. He was doing some stuff in that game that was incredible in terms of just, flipping the ball just on one leg. And the fact that he was out there with young receivers, and when you think about the veteran guys that was in and out of the lineup, you talk about Sky Moore, for instance. He's a special teams guy that could, in the return game, as he continues to grow and play the receiver position, there's no question that they could do a lot of dynamic things with him. Okay, Tony got hurt in the game, so now all of a sudden you insert a guy into the lineup like Sky Moore. But then you also got MVS that showed up big. Patrick Mahomes delivering him the football in sync, in rhythm, protected him on a deep pass on a corner route there from the safety. Then he hits him on the touchdown late in the game right there. When you look at Patrick Mahomes, you say, what is he really dealing with at the receiver position? There's a lot of guys that have the big-time receivers like T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd along with Jamar Chase. And, yes, Joe Burrow's fabulous. But if you gave those 3 receivers to Patrick Mahomes, what would he look like?
Oh, my God.
What would he look like?
You just give him the Super Bowl every year. I mean, because quite honestly, that's the truth. Because, Key, you make a great point. There's one receiver on that team that you would fear, so to speak, and that's Travis Kelce. The rest of them, forget about it. Like, these are guys off the scrap heap. Late draft picks, all that type of stuff. Never one time do you ever hear this guy bitching about the talent.
Ever.
Not one time. And why? Andy Reid's a great coach. He makes it work. But this kid is so special, it's unreal.
And those guys, you mentioned his leadership. Those young receivers that they have will grow with him as he continues to grow. We've seen it. We've seen some of the young receivers along with Patrick Mahomes. All of a sudden, when you talk about guys like Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill was a young receiver with Patrick Mahomes. He was not a veteran guy when they got him. He was, in fact, a kick return guy that eventually morphed into a superstar wide receiver over time with Patrick Mahomes, Eric Bieniemy, and Andy Reid. So when you start to look again, you start to look at guys like MVS and Sky Moore. At some point in time, they get caught up and pushed into those roles and become something special. They got 2 weeks to get it together, though. Yeah. Because if they can get healthy, by the time they get to the Super Bowl, it's going to be a totally different game than what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. I mean, quite honestly, this one's going to be, an all-time game, man. And here's the thing, a matchup, too, that nobody talks about. The number one offensive line in the league in pass block win rate is the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going against that number one pass rush. So, I want to see.
Let me ask you this, though. Let me ask you this. Do you think, Rex,
we got like 30
as a head coach, Andy Reid is going to leave Travis Kelce or whoever out there by themselves trying to block Hassan Reddick?
Hell no. Hey, Key, we always said, if you have to give up a sack, block with the tight end. And we saw it again. They got 2 quarterbacks hit doing that.
Rex Ryan, ESPN NFL analyst. Rexy, always great talking to you.
Oh, my pleasure. And, man, oh, man, we got a good one, though. We got a good one.
We do indeed, Coach. We do indeed.
All right, Rex.
So, anyone still think Patrick Mahomes misses Tyreek Hill? Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max, ESPN Radio.
It's Mahomes' house, baby. Arrowhead. I love this place, man.
My goal is to win the Super Bowl. To me, the job's not finished.
And I can't wait till Kansas City and Philly clash. It's gonna be awesome, man. I mean, what a great Super Bowl it'll be.
This is Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max.
You said close your eyes.